The buzzing energy of the open plan office seemed to echo Tara Williams' excitement that morning. Today felt different. There was something in the air, a sense of opportunity that she hadn't felt in a while. Tara had been working at the company for 5 years now, and while she had faced her fair share of challenges, today seemed to mark the beginning of something new. She straightened her desk, smoothing the papers scattered on top and adjusting the family photo that always kept her grounded. She had worked tirelessly to prove herself, overcoming obstacles that her colleagues never seemed to face. Long hours, difficult clients, extra tasks. Tara had done it all with a calm and professional demeanor. She knew she was ready for the next step in her career. As Tara prepared her morning coffee, her thoughts wandered to her boss, Derek, the head of her department. Derek's sharp suits and stiff demeanor were a common sight in the office. He was a middle-aged white man with an authoritative air that kept his subordinates in line. While Derek had always kept things professional, Tara had felt the weight of his subtle but consistent dismissals over the years. Her ideas often went unheard, and her contributions were frequently overshadowed by colleagues who seemed to breeze by without the same scrutiny. But today that would change, Tara thought as she made her way to the large glass meeting room. The company had been restructuring for the past few months, and today's meeting was supposed to discuss the new roles and promotions. Tara had prepared extensively, hoping that this would finally be her moment. When she entered the meeting room, Derek was already there, seated at the head of the table with a folder in front of him. His cold blue eyes barely flicked up as Tara took a seat across from him. There was no small talk, no warmth in his greeting. Derek began, his voice as mechanical as ever. "I've reviewed your performance over the past year, and after careful consideration, I need to inform you that there will be some changes." Tara's heart skipped a beat. This was it. Maybe she had been too quick to assume Derek wouldn't recognize her hard work. "We're moving some things around," Derek continued, his words devoid of any emotion. "Unfortunately, given the new structure of the department, your role will be redefined." He paused, glancing down at the folder in front of him before sliding it across the table. Tara frowned, her fingers brushing the edge of the folder but not opening it yet. "Redefined?" Derek leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "Yes, you've been reassigned to a junior position. It's necessary for the company's restructuring efforts, and I expect you to continue delivering results in this new capacity." Tara's breath caught in her throat, a demotion. She stared at the folder, feeling the weight of his words crash down on her. This wasn't the promotion she had been working so hard for. This was a step back, a slap in the face. But why, she managed to ask, trying to keep her voice steady. "I've been working here for 5 years, and my performance has been strong. Why am I being demoted?" Derek's gaze remained impassive, his hands folded neatly in his lap. "It's not about your performance, Tara. It's about what's best for the department. We need to make sure that everyone is in the right place, and given the new structure, this role is a better fit for you." A better fit. The words stung, their condescension hitting her like a punch to the gut. She had heard this language before, polished corporate phrases designed to disguise the true nature of decisions rooted in bias. "I see," Tara said, swallowing her frustration. Her mind raced, trying to comprehend the sudden turn of events. She had been prepared for a promotion, for an acknowledgement of her dedication and hard work, not for this. She kept her composure, though inside she was boiling. Derek didn't seem to notice the storm brewing beneath her calm exterior. He stood up, signaling that the conversation was over. "I trust you'll adjust to your new role quickly," he said, his tone dismissive. "This is effective immediately. I'll expect the transition to be smooth." Tara nodded, her face neutral, as she clutched the folder tighter in her hand. She wanted to argue, to tell Derek that this wasn't right, but she knew it wouldn't make a difference. She had seen this happen before, to others who didn't fit the mold, always shuffled into smaller, less visible roles without an ounce of consideration. She left the meeting room in a daze, her footsteps heavy as she made her way back to her desk. The office, once filled with the promise of opportunity, now felt suffocating. How had everything shifted so drastically? Sitting at her desk, Tara opened the folder, reading through the formal letter of demotion. The language was as cold and impersonal as Derek's demeanor. The blow to her career was evident, and the unspoken message behind it was even clearer. This wasn't just about restructuring, it was about keeping her in her place. Tara closed the folder and leaned back in her chair, her mind swirling with a mixture of anger and disbelief. She had worked too hard for this. She had given too much of herself to be treated this way. But even as the anger simmered within her, Tara felt something else bubbling to the surface. It was determination. She wouldn't let this define her. She had been knocked down, yes, but she wasn't out. Not yet. Tara sat at her desk, staring at the screen in front of her, but the words of the email she had opened blurred into nothingness. The folder from Derek's meeting sat at the edge of her desk, as if daring her to open it again and relive the humiliation. Her mind reeled, flipping between disbelief and growing frustration. How could this have happened? How could Derek, after everything she had done for the department, think she belonged in a junior role? She had delivered on every project. She had earned the respect of her peers and had been the go-to person when tough decisions needed to be made. This demotion wasn't about performance, it was about perception. Derek had never seen her as someone who could lead. He had always kept her in a box, assigning her tasks that made her feel like just another cog in the machine. Tara clenched her fists, biting back the rising tide of anger. She had worked too hard, sacrificed too much to let this happen without a fight. But how could she fight? Derek controlled her future at the company, and even if she reported the demotion as unfair, it would be brushed off as a necessary part of the restructuring process. She heard the light tapping of footsteps approaching and quickly adjusted her posture. Her colleague and friend, Lisa, a fellow consultant in the department, popped her head around the corner of Tara's cubicle. "Hey, how did it go? I saw you come out of Derek's office earlier. Did they finally make you senior consultant?" Tara gave her a tight smile, one that didn't reach her eyes. Not quite. Lisa's smile faltered as she caught the tone in Tara's voice. She pulled up a chair, concern etched across her face. "What happened?" Tara hesitated. She wasn't one to share personal struggles at work. But Lisa was different. She had always been supportive, and their friendship had grown over the years. "Derek, he demoted me. Told me it was part of the restructuring." Lisa's eyes widened in disbelief. "He what? You've been carrying this department on your back for years. How could he demote you?" Tara let out a bitter laugh, more to keep herself from crying than anything else. "Apparently, I'm not a good fit for a senior role under the new structure." "That's garbage," Lisa snapped. "You've done more for this team than anyone. You know it." "I know it." "Everyone knows it," she paused, her voice softening. "It's because you're a black woman, isn't it? I mean, they don't say it outright, but we all know how things work around here." Tara sighed, the weight of Lisa's words sinking deep into her chest. She didn't need to be told what she already knew. The glass ceiling she had been trying to break through had always been there, invisible but undeniable. She had ignored the microaggressions, the dismissals, and the subtle sidelining, because she believed that hard work would eventually force people to acknowledge her worth. But now it seemed that no amount of work would ever be enough. Lisa's face flushed with anger on Tara's behalf. "You should report this. Take it to HR. There's no way this is fair." Tara shook her head. "HR is just going to tell me it's part of the restructuring plan. They won't see it for what it really is." Lisa opened her mouth to argue but stopped when she saw the look in Tara's eyes. "So, what are you going to do?" Tara leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. "I don't know yet. I can't afford to quit, not right now. But I also can't just stay here and let this happen without a plan. I need to figure out my next move." Lisa nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Whatever you decide, I'm with you. If you need help, just let me know. We can talk to some of the other team members, see if we can get some support from them too." "Thanks," Tara said softly, grateful for her friend's solidarity. But deep down, Tara knew that speaking out, even with her colleague's support, wouldn't change the reality of her situation. The system was built to protect people like Derek, to ensure that those who looked like him remained in power. If she was going to make a move, she'd have to be strategic. Later that evening, Tara sat at her kitchen table, her laptop open to a job search website. She clicked through listings, scrolling past dozens of roles that seemed perfect on the surface but were located in companies with similar cultures, ones that would likely pose the same obstacles she had faced here. Tara closed the tab, a wave of frustration washing over her. She didn't want to run from this fight, but how long could she keep facing the same barriers over and over? As the night stretched on, her mind spun with questions and doubts. But somewhere in the middle of it all, a new idea began to take shape. Maybe she didn't need to leave this company. Maybe she could rise within it, not despite Derek's actions, but because of them. Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a text from Lisa. "We believe in you. You've got this. Don't let them dim your light." Tara smiled at the message, a small spark of determination reigniting in her chest. Tara began to sketch out a plan. She knew that leaving wasn't an option right now, but staying meant playing a long game. She needed allies, people in higher positions who saw her value. Derek may have tried to bury her potential, but she wouldn't let that be the final word. She would find a way to rise. As Tara sat there, planning her next move, she felt a shift in her mindset. The demotion stung. But it wasn't going to define her. If she was going to survive this, she'd have to be smarter, more strategic, and more resilient than ever. And deep down, she knew she was up for the challenge. Weeks passed, and while Tara maintained her outward professionalism, inside she was caught in a quiet storm of frustration and determination. Each morning, as she walked through the towering glass doors of the office building, she reminded herself why she stayed. This was her career, her livelihood, and she had earned her place here. Derek's demotion wasn't going to push her out. But as the days went by, it became clear that Derek wasn't content with just demoting Tara. He seemed to take pleasure in reminding her of her new role. He started giving her more menial tasks, ones that were beneath her skill level. Proofreading reports, setting up meetings, managing mundane details of projects she had once led. It was infuriating. One afternoon, after hours of checking spreadsheets that would never lead to any real growth or development, Tara found herself staring blankly at her screen. The sinking feeling that she was being reduced to an office assistant gnawed at her. She could feel her potential being squandered as the projects she once handled were handed off to her white colleagues, some with less experience, some who leaned on her for advice but never acknowledged it. As Tara sat at her desk, lost in thought, Lisa appeared beside her again, a concerned expression on her face. "Tara, are you okay? You've been quiet lately," Lisa asked, pulling up a chair. This situation isn't right." Tara sighed, feeling the weight of the past few weeks hanging on her shoulders. "I know. It's just... everything's different now. Derek's making sure I feel it every day." Lisa frowned. "I've noticed. You deserve so much better than this." "I know," Tara agreed softly, her voice resolute. "But I can't give up. Not yet." Lisa nodded, and then hesitated for a moment before speaking again. "You know, Vanessa has been asking about you." Tara's eyebrows shot up in surprise. Vanessa Miller, one of the company's senior executives, was known for her sharp mind and leadership skills. She was also one of the few women of color in upper management, a rarity in the corporate world. Tara had always admired her from afar, but had never had the opportunity to work with her closely. "Vanessa," Tara asked, trying to keep the flicker of hope from igniting too quickly. "What did she say?" "What did she say?" "She asked me about your work," Lisa explained, leaning in. "She's been keeping an eye on you for a while, it seems. She wanted to know if you'd be interested in helping out with a high-profile project she's leading." Tara's pulse quickened. This could be the break she had been hoping for, the chance to prove her worth, to show her leadership skills outside of Derek's biased oversight. But a part of her was cautious. She had learned the hard way that office politics were always in play, and not every opportunity was as it seemed. "What kind of project?" Tara asked, trying to temper her excitement. "It's a major restructuring initiative," Lisa replied. "It's hush-hush right now, but it involves streamlining a lot of operations. Vanessa needs someone who can manage people and projects efficiently, and you're perfect for it. She wants to meet with you tomorrow." Tara nodded, trying to contain the swell of emotions inside her. This could be her way out of Derek's oppressive hold, but would it come with its own set of challenges? "Do you think I should do it?" Tara asked, a rare moment of vulnerability peeking through. Lisa grinned. "Of course, you're more than qualified. And this is your chance to show the higher-ups what you're made of. Don't let Derek and his nonsense hold you back." The next morning, Tara arrived early, her heart pounding as she approached Vanessa's office. She had spent the night preparing, reviewing everything she knew about the company's operations, and thinking through ways to add value to the project. She was ready to impress. Vanessa's office was sleek and modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city skyline. Tara knocked lightly, her nerves buzzing with anticipation. "Come in," a confident voice called from inside. Tara stepped in, finding Vanessa seated behind her large desk, her presence commanding yet approachable. Vanessa smiled warmly, gesturing for Tara to take a seat. "Tara Williams, I've heard a lot about you," Vanessa began, her eyes sharp with curiosity. "Your reputation for delivering results precedes you." Tara smiled, though she felt a knot of uncertainty forming in her stomach. Was this another test? Was Vanessa setting her up for failure, or was this genuinely the opportunity it seemed to be? "Thank you, Ms. Miller. I've been following your work as well. I'm excited to contribute in any way I can," Tara replied, keeping her voice steady. Vanessa's smile widened slightly, sensing Tara's caution. "Look, I know things haven't been easy for you lately, especially with the changes Derek has put in place, but I believe in potential, not just titles. And from what I've seen and heard, you have more potential than your current role reflects." Tara felt a wave of relief wash over her. Vanessa understood. She wasn't going to be another roadblock in her path. She was offering a way forward. "I'm leading a restructuring initiative," Vanessa continued, leaning forward slightly. "It's going to streamline our operations across several departments, and I need someone who can manage the teams, the details, and the execution. I think you're the right person for the job." Tara blinked, her mind racing to process what Vanessa was saying. This was more than just a project. It was an opportunity to lead, to prove herself on a much larger stage than she had ever imagined. "I won't lie," Vanessa said, her tone serious now. "This project is going to be tough. There will be resistance, and you'll be dealing with some people who don't want to see you succeed. But if you're up for the challenge, I'm willing to back you." Tara straightened in her seat, the knot of uncertainty unraveling. This was the moment she had been waiting for. She wasn't going to let fear or Derek's intimidation tactics hold her back any longer. "I'm up for the challenge," Tara said, her voice filled with confidence she hadn't felt in weeks. "Thank you for believing in me." Vanessa smiled, a glint of satisfaction in her eyes. "Good. Let's get to work." As Tara left Vanessa's office, a new sense of purpose filled her. She had been knocked down, but she wasn't out, not by a long shot. This was her opportunity to rise above Derek's pettiness and prove, not just to him, but to the entire company, that she was a leader. But deep down, Tara knew that her journey wouldn't be easy. The road ahead would be filled with obstacles, and not everyone would support her rise. But for the first time in weeks, she felt like she was in control of her destiny again, and she wasn't going to let anyone take that from her. The weeks that followed were some of the most challenging and rewarding of Tara's career. Vanessa had been true to her word. The restructuring initiative was no easy task. Tara was thrust into a leadership role that demanded precision, patience, and the ability to navigate complex office dynamics. And though she had been technically demoted by Derek, her responsibilities on Vanessa's project were far beyond her previous position. Tara worked late into the nights, often balancing her new role on the project with the menial tasks Derek still assigned to her. She hadn't yet told him about her involvement in the initiative. Vanessa had advised her to keep things quiet until the project's success was undeniable. It was a strategic move, meant to protect Tara from Derek's retaliation and keep him in the dark about the true scope of her influence. Despite the weight of her workload, Tara found herself thriving in the challenge. For the first time in months, she felt truly valued for her skills. The team she led, though initially skeptical, quickly came to respect her leadership. Her ability to manage multiple departments, balance conflicting interests, and deliver results began to earn her a quiet reputation among key players in the company. One of the project's most difficult aspects was dealing with the subtle resistance from some of the senior members of the team, many of whom were used to doing things their own way and weren't particularly eager to follow Tara's lead. Some questioned her decisions, others tried to undermine her authority in meetings, and a few even made thinly veiled comments about how ambitious she seemed to be, considering her recent demotion. Tara, however, remained focused. Vanessa had given her the freedom to run the project as she saw fit, and Tara knew she couldn't afford to let personal attacks derail her progress. She learned to navigate the office politics carefully, choosing her battles wisely. When faced with resistance, she didn't shy away from confrontation but handled it with grace and professionalism. The more her colleagues tried to push her down, the more she quietly pushed back, proving her competence through her actions rather than her words. One of the most pivotal moments came during a key meeting with the executive team. The restructuring initiative had reached a critical phase, and Tara was scheduled to present the team's progress and the next steps forward. It was her first major presentation to the company's leadership, and she knew that the stakes were high. A successful presentation would solidify her position and prove to everyone, especially Derek, that she was more than capable of handling this kind of responsibility. The morning of the presentation, Tara stood in front of the mirror in her apartment, straightening her blazer. She had practiced her speech countless times, but there was still a small knot of anxiety in her stomach. This wasn't just about a project, it was about reclaiming her dignity, about showing everyone who had doubted her that she belonged at the table. She arrived at the office early, making her way to the large conference room where the meeting would take place. As she set up her materials, she caught sight of Derek through the glass doors, making his way into the office. He glanced her way, his expression a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. Tara held his gaze for a moment before turning back to her work. He still didn't know what was coming, and that was how she wanted it. When the meeting began, Tara stood before the executives, her heart pounding in her chest. The room was filled with senior leaders, including Vanessa, who gave her a reassuring nod from across the table. Derek sat in the middle of the group, his face unreadable as he flipped through the documents in front of him. Tara cleared her throat and began. "Good morning, everyone. Over the past few months, our team has been working on the company's restructuring initiative, with the goal of streamlining operations and improving efficiency across all departments. I'm here to present our progress and outline the next steps for implementation." As she spoke, Tara's confidence grew. She walked the executives through the details of the project, highlighting the areas where her team had already made significant improvements and explaining how the upcoming phases would further enhance the company's overall performance. She backed up her points with data, clearly demonstrating the impact of the changes she had overseen. The room was silent, but Tara could feel the weight of every gaze fixed on her. Derek sat with his arms crossed, his brow furrowed as he processed what he was hearing. He hadn't expected this, he hadn't expected her. As Tara neared the end of her presentation, she opened the floor for questions. Several executives chimed in, asking about the finer details of the restructuring and how it would affect their departments. Tara answered each question with poise, showing her deep understanding of the company's operations and the strategic decisions she had made along the way. Derek remained silent, but his eyes never left Tara as she fielded questions with ease. She could sense his growing discomfort, his realization that she wasn't the powerless employee he had tried to make her. The tables were turning, and he knew it. When the meeting finally came to a close, the executives nodded in approval. Vanessa was the last to speak. "Excellent work, Tara," she said, her voice filled with pride. "This project is on track, and I have no doubt that the remaining phases will be executed just as efficiently under your leadership." Tara smiled, her heart swelling with relief. She had done it. She had proven herself not just to the executives, but to herself. As the meeting adjourned, Derek approached her slowly, his face a mask of forced politeness. "Tara," he said, his voice stiff. "That was impressive. I didn't realize you were involved in this project." Tara met his gaze, her smile never faltering. "Yes, Derek. Vanessa brought me on to lead this initiative. It's been quite a challenge, but I'm glad we've made so much progress." Derek blinked, clearly taken aback. "Lead?" Tara nodded. "That's right. I've been managing the entire team for the past few months. Derek's mouth tightened. He nodded curtly, his frustration barely hidden beneath his professional facade. Well, good work. I'll be watching the progress closely. Tara nodded politely, but inside, she felt a surge of triumph. He was watching, all right, but now he was the one who would have to take note of her progress. The power dynamic between them had shifted, and though Derek wasn't ready to admit it, Tara knew that this was just the beginning. As Derek walked away, Tara exhaled slowly, the tension in her shoulders finally easing. She had faced resistance, doubt, and obstacles at every turn, but she had navigated through it all. Now, she was ready for the next phase of her journey, one where she would no longer allow herself to be held back by people like Derek. Vanessa approached her, a smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "You handled that beautifully," she said. "I knew you were the right person for the job." "Thank you for believing in me," Tara replied, her voice filled with gratitude. Vanessa nodded. "This is just the beginning, Tara. Keep up the good work, and there will be more opportunities coming your way. I'll make sure of it." As Vanessa walked away, Tara allowed herself a moment to breathe it all in. She had climbed a difficult mountain, but she had reached the top. And as she stood there, looking out at the office that had once felt like a battleground, she realized that this wasn't just a victory for her career, it was a victory for her sense of self-worth. She had proven to herself, and to those who doubted her, that she was far more than the boxes they tried to put her in. Tara sat in her office, a small but bright room that she had earned as part of her new position overseeing the restructuring initiative. It wasn't a promotion in title yet, but her responsibilities had grown exponentially. She managed several teams, coordinated directly with executives, and had become a visible leader within the company. She could feel the tide turning in her favor, but she knew that one final push remained. Across the hall, Derek sat in his much larger office, still unaware that his position of dominance was hanging by a thread. Tara had learned through Vanessa that a senior management role was about to open up, a position that would place her above Derek, making her his direct supervisor. The thought of it made her stomach flutter with both excitement and nervous energy. Would Derek even believe it when the news broke? He had tried to keep her down, to diminish her presence, and soon she would be in a position of authority over him. For now, though, it was all quiet on the surface. She went about her work as usual, handling the restructuring process with skill and focus, making sure the project continued smoothly. Derek had stopped assigning her menial tasks, likely because he now knew she had more important things on her plate, but his disdainful glances hadn't dissipated. He clearly resented her success, and while he hadn't outwardly expressed it, Tara could sense his frustration in every strained interaction they had. A week after the presentation that had cemented her reputation in the company, Tara received an email from Vanessa. The subject line was simple: "Let's discuss your future." Tara's heart skipped a beat as she opened it. "Vanessa. Tara. I have some exciting news to share with you. We'll need to talk this week about the senior management position opening up soon. I believe you're the perfect candidate, and I'd like to put your name forward to the board. Let me know when you're free to meet and discuss next steps. Best. Vanessa." Tara stared at the email, her mind racing. This was it. The opportunity she had been waiting for. Her hands trembled slightly as she typed out a response, confirming her availability for a meeting later that afternoon. When she stepped into Vanessa's office later that day, she was greeted with a warm smile. "Tara, have a seat," Vanessa said, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. "I've been talking with the board, and they've been watching your progress. The restructuring project has been a huge success, largely thanks to your leadership." Tara smiled, though her heart was pounding in her chest. She could feel the gravity of this moment hanging between them. "There's a senior management role opening up in the next few weeks," Vanessa continued, leaning forward slightly. "It's the head of operations, a position that would give you oversight over multiple departments, including Derek's." Tara blinked. She knew this was coming, but hearing it out loud still felt surreal. "I've already spoken to several board members," Vanessa went on. "They're impressed with your work and see you as a natural fit for the role. I believe this is your time, Tara." Tara swallowed hard, her mind whirling with excitement and disbelief. She had been preparing for this moment without even realizing it. The months of hard work, the obstacles she had overcome, it had all led to this. "Thank you," Vanessa, Tara said softly. I'm ready." Vanessa smiled, her confidence in Tara unwavering. "Good. I'll be putting your name forward officially at the next board meeting. I'll keep you in the loop, but I wanted you to know first." As Tara left Vanessa's office, she couldn't help but feel a wave of exhilaration wash over her. The path had been long and difficult, but she was now on the cusp of something monumental. But as the excitement settled, she realized that this new role wouldn't just be a promotion, it would put her directly over Derek. The thought was both empowering and daunting. How would Derek react when he found out? Would he try to undermine her? Would he retaliate? Or would he finally see her for what she truly was, a capable leader, someone who had outgrown the limitations he had tried to place on her? Tara knew she had to be prepared for anything. The following week, the official announcement was made. The entire company gathered in the large conference room for the quarterly all-hands meeting, where promotions and changes in leadership were typically announced. Tara sat in the audience, her hands clasped in her lap, waiting for her name to be called. Derek sat a few rows behind her, completely unaware of the storm that was about to hit him. The CEO, Mr. Hargrove, stood at the podium, reading through the company updates before turning to the most anticipated part of the meeting, the promotions. "And now we have an exciting announcement regarding a key leadership position," Mr. Hargrove said, his voice booming across the room. "After a successful restructuring project and a glowing recommendation from senior leadership, I'm pleased to announce that the new head of operations will be Tara Williams." The room broke into polite applause, though Tara noticed several surprised faces in the crowd. She stood, making her way to the front of the room to accept her new role. As she approached the podium, she cast a quick glance over her shoulder at Derek. His face was pale, his mouth slightly agape. He blinked in disbelief as Tara walked past him, her expression cool and composed. This was at the moment he realized she had surpassed him. Tara accepted the congratulations with grace, shaking hands with the executives and returning to her seat. As the meeting continued, she could feel Derek's eyes burning into the back of her head, but she didn't look back. She didn't need to. The power dynamic had shifted, and Derek knew it. Later that afternoon, Tara returned to her office, still processing everything that had happened. She knew the real work was only beginning. As head of operations, she would have more responsibilities than ever before, and she would be directly overseeing Derek's department. It was going to be a delicate balancing act, maintaining professionalism while dealing with someone who had actively worked to suppress her potential. A knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. She looked up to see Derek standing in the doorway, his face a mix of confusion and barely concealed frustration. "Tara," he said, his voice strained. "Congratulations on the promotion." Tara smiled politely. "Thank you, Derek." He shifted uncomfortably, clearly not used to being in this position. "I didn't realize. I didn't expect." "I know you didn't," Tara said, her voice calm but firm. "But things have changed." Derek stood there for a moment, at a loss for words. "I guess I'll be reporting to you now." Tara nodded, her eyes locked on his. "Yes, you will." Derek swallowed hard, then nodded stiffly. "Well, good luck." Tara watched as he turned and walked away, his shoulders slumped slightly. She knew it wasn't easy for him. But this wasn't about his comfort. This was about the future she had fought for, the future she had earned. As the door clicked shut behind him, Tara allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The road had been long, and the battle far from easy, but she had come out on top. And now she was ready to lead with strength, grace, and a clear understanding of what it took to get here. Tara sat at her desk, the hum of the office a distant sound as she stared out the window. It had been a whirlwind few days since the announcement of her promotion, and though everything around her seemed to be moving at lightning speed, she felt a deep sense of calm. She had reached the point she had fought so hard for, and now it was time to prove that she belonged at the top. There had been moments of doubt, of fear and frustration, but as she looked at the reflection in the glass, her own face now calm and composed, she knew she had come out stronger. Tara had been through the fire, and she had not only survived but thrived. Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. It was an email from Vanessa. "Vanessa. Tara, I've heard nothing but positive feedback about your promotion. People are talking, and they're impressed with the way you've handled everything. The board is confident that you'll bring the same level of success to the head of operations that you brought to the restructuring project. I want to remind you that you have a strong support network here. We're in this together, and I'm always here if you need advice or just want to talk. Congratulations again, you've earned this. Best. Vanessa." Tara smiled, the weight of Vanessa's support lifting her spirits even higher. She knew she couldn't have gotten this far alone. Vanessa had been instrumental in guiding her through the toughest parts of the journey, and knowing that she had her back in this new role gave Tara the confidence to push forward. But there was one person whose support had always been conspicuously absent: Derek. Since their brief conversation after her promotion, he had remained distant. Their interactions were polite, but there was an unspoken tension between them. Derek was clearly struggling to come to terms with his new reality, and Tara knew that if she was going to be successful in her new role, she couldn't let that tension linger. It was time to have a conversation with him, one that would hopefully clear the air and set the tone for their future working relationship. Later that afternoon, Tara sent Derek a message, asking if he had time to meet. A few minutes later, he appeared at her office door, his expression unreadable. "Come in," Tara said, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. Derek sat down, his posture rigid. "What can I do for you?" he asked, his voice neutral. Tara leaned forward, folding her hands on her desk. "I wanted to talk about where we go from here," she said, her tone calm but direct. "I know this transition hasn't been easy for you." Derek's jaw tightened slightly, but he said nothing. "I understand that things have changed," Tara continued, "but I want to make sure that, moving forward, we're able to work together professionally. I respect your experience, and I believe we can accomplish a lot if we're both on the same page." Derek shifted in his seat, his discomfort evident. "I've always been professional, Tara, he said. His tone clipped. I just didn't expect this. I know, Tara replied softly. But that's the reality now. I'm your supervisor, and I'm not here to make things difficult for you. We're both here to do what's best for the company. There was a long pause as Derek stared at the floor, seemingly lost in thought. Tara could see the internal struggle playing out on his face as pride, his sense of control slipping away. Finally, he looked up, his eyes meeting hers. I won't lie, he said quietly. This isn't easy for me. I've always seen myself as the one in charge, and now it's different. Tara nodded, appreciating his honesty. I understand that, Derek. But this doesn't have to be a bad thing. We're both professionals, and I believe we can make this work if we're willing to leave the past behind us. Derek sighed, running a hand through his hair. I guess I've been holding on to some things, he admitted. I've made some assumptions about you that weren't fair. And now, it's clear that I underestimated you. Tara raised an eyebrow, surprised by the admission. I appreciate you saying that. Derek hesitated before speaking again. You've proven yourself, Tara. I can't deny that. I didn't think you'd get this far, but here you are. There was a vulnerability in Derek's voice that Tara hadn't heard before, and she realized that this conversation was as much about his own insecurities as it was about her leadership. I didn't get here alone, Tara said gently, and I'm not asking you to give up anything. I'm asking you to work with me, to see what we can achieve together. Derek nodded slowly, his shoulders relaxing slightly. I think I can do that. Tara smiled, the tension in the room lifting. Good. That's all I ask. As Derek stood to leave, there was a noticeable shift in his demeanor. The resentment that had clouded their interactions seemed to have dissipated, replaced by a quiet acceptance of the new dynamic. Tara knew that it wouldn't be easy for him, but this was a step in the right direction. They could move forward together. The weeks that followed were a testament to Tara's leadership. With Derek's cooperation, her department flourished. The restructuring initiative was completed successfully, and the company's efficiency and productivity soared. Tara had earned the respect of her colleagues, even those who had doubted her before. As head of operations, Tara's influence expanded across multiple departments, and she began implementing new policies that promoted diversity and inclusion at all levels of the company. It was her way of ensuring that the next generation of employees wouldn't face the same barriers she had encountered. Tara's journey had come full circle. She had faced discrimination, bias, and attempts to diminish her worth, but she had risen above it all, and now she was in a position to change the system from within. One afternoon, Tara was invited to speak at a company-wide event focused on leadership and diversity in the workplace. As she stood at the podium, looking out at the crowd of employees, some familiar, others knew she felt a deep sense of pride. This company has come a long way, Tara began, her voice strong and steady, but there's still work to be done. Leadership isn't just about making decisions, it's about creating opportunities, lifting others up, and recognizing the potential in every person, regardless of where they come from or what they look like. She paused, scanning the room. Derek was seated near the back, his expression thoughtful as he listened to her words. I stand here today not because I'm exceptional, Tara continued, but because I refuse to let anyone tell me I didn't belong. And that's what I want for each of you to know, that you do belong. No matter the obstacles you face, no matter who tries to hold you back, you have the power to rise. The room was silent, the weight of her words hanging in the air. Then, slowly, applause began to ripple through the crowd, growing louder with each passing second. Tara smiled, her heart full as she stepped away from the podium. As the applause faded, Tara knew that this was only the beginning. She had achieved so much, but her mission was far from over. There were still barriers to break, still minds to change, and still voices that needed to be heard. But now, she was in a position to make sure those changes happened. And for the first time in a long time, Tara felt truly at peace with herself, with her journey, and with the future she was building.